Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we're really digging into Acts chapter 23.
That's right. We're looking at a study that focuses on, well, the start of Paul's legal troubles, really.
Yeah, but also how God uses these situations, providing protection and, chances to share the message.
Exactly. It's not just history. It shows how faith works through tough legal spots.
And how unexpected events can fit into a bigger picture. That's kind of our mission for this exploration.
Yeah, to see how faith handles these challenges. And the sources we have, they offer great context.
Historical context, human nature, that unwavering belief someone like Paul had.
Right. It's all in there.
Okay, so let's jump in. Acts 23, verse 1. Paul's standing before the Sanhedrin, the Jewish council.
Mm-hmm. And right away he says he's lived his life before God with a completely clear conscience up to that very day.
That's quite an opening. He's answering to God first, not them.
Precisely. The study highlights that. For Paul, God is the ultimate judge. His primary accountability, it's to him.
Which doesn't go over well with the high priest, Hananiah, verse 2.
Not at all. He immediately orders someone to strike Paul on the mouth.
Wow. Talk about starting things off with a bang. Shows the tension, right?
Definitely. It's spiritual truth hitting earthly power. The study suggests Hananiah felt threatened.
Like his authority was being challenged. If people connect directly to God through Christ.
Then the leaders lose some influence, yeah. It's a classic power dynamic, still relevant today.
For sure. And Paul's reaction in verse 3, well, it's fiery.
Oh, yeah. He calls Hananiah a whitewashed wall.
Asks how he can judge by the law while ordering him struck, which violates the law. Strong stuff.
It's powerful imagery. A whitewashed wall. Looks clean on the outside, but is just covering up decay or, structural problems.
Our source connects that straight to Jesus' criticisms in Luke 11, doesn't it?
It does. That hypocrisy of appearance versus reality, Paul saw right through it. A warning for us, too, really.
What you see isn't always the truth. And the study also mentions, James, about faith needing action.
Exactly. Not just saying the right things, but living them out. True integrity, not just surface-level religion.
Okay, so Paul calls the high priest this name, and people nearby are shocked.
Understandably, verse 4, they're like, you're insulting God's high priest.
But then Paul, in verse 5, he actually apologizes. Says he didn't realize who it was.
Yeah, and he quotes Exodus. Do not speak evil about the ruler of your people.
Which seems a bit surprising after the whitewashed wall comment.
Well, the study offers a good perspective here. Paul wasn't under the old law like before, but he still respected it as a witness.
Ah, so it's about the principle. Obeying God's command to respect authority, even when the person in charge is, well, wrong.
Exactly. It wasn't dependent on Hananiah's actions. It's about respecting the office itself. A subtle but important distinction.
Right. Okay, so after that intense exchange, Paul does something really clever, verse 6.
He does. He knows the council is divided. Pharisees and Sadducees.
And he just throws it out there. I am a Pharisee. I stand on trial because of the hope of the resurrection of the dead.
Boom. He knew exactly what that would do. He was trained as a Pharisee himself, remember?
He knew the fault lines. Sadducees didn't believe in resurrection, angels, spirits.
Well, the Pharisees did. Strongly. So by hitting that core issue, the resurrection, which is central to Christianity anyway, he splits the room.
And the study is clear this wasn't just Paul trying to escape, right?
No, not solely. It emphasizes his goal was always to testify about Jesus and the resurrection. He knew he was headed for Rome eventually.
So this was fundamental truth for him, not just a tactic.
Precisely. And it worked. Verse 7 says a huge argument broke out. Pharisees versus Sadducees. The place was in an uproar.
Must have been chaos. And then some Pharisees actually stand up for Paul. Verse 9.
Yeah, some of the teachers of the law aligned with the Pharisees. They say, we find nothing wrong with this man.
And they even add, what if a spirit or an angel has spoken to him?
Which is fascinating. This study connects that openness to spiritual communication to how the Holy Spirit works today, guiding us, speaking to us.
Interesting parallel. Okay, so the fight gets so bad, the Roman commander gets worried. Again.
Right. Verse 10, he thinks Paul's going to be literally torn to pieces between the factions.
So he orders the soldiers down to grab Paul and take him back to the barracks. Protective custody, basically.
Yeah, the commander's just trying to keep the peace, maintain order.
Yeah.
But in doing that, he's actually keeping Paul safe. Part of the bigger plan, maybe.
Seems like it. Especially given what happens next. Verse 11, that night.
Ah, yes. The Lord appears to Paul, tells him, take courage.
As you have testified about me in Jerusalem, so you must also testify in Rome. Wow. Direct reassurance.
Incredible moment. Paul kind of knew hardship was coming, the study notes. He wasn't naive.
But this confirms it, confirms the path. God's plan is still on track.
And the study links this to Ephesians 2.9 for us, that God has prepared works for us to do too.
We all have a calling to share our beliefs wherever God puts us.
Exactly. In our own spheres, okay? But the danger isn't over for Paul. Far from it.
No kidding. Verses 12 and 13. More than 40 men hatch a plot.
A deadly one. They take an oath, a really serious thing back then, not to eat or drink until they've killed Paul.
That's extreme dedication to murder. Chilling.
It shows the intensity of the hatred against him. And they weren't messing around with that oath.
So verses 14, 15, they go to the chief priests and elders with their plan.
Ask them to request the commander bring Paul back to the Sanhedrin, supposedly for more questions.
But it's a setup. They plan to ambush him on the way.
The study makes a good point here. Challenges often come indirectly, right? Like Satan's attacks, using deception, not always head on.
But then, another twist, God intervenes. Verses 16 to 18.
Paul's nephew. Somehow he overhears the plot.
Just happens to be in the right place or divinely positioned.
The study suggests the latter. God had Paul's nephew where he needed to be. He goes straight to the barracks, warns Paul.
And Paul, always proactive, tells a centurion to take the young man to the commander.
It's a great example of God's care, isn't it? Using unexpected people and circumstances. A reminder for us to be watchful for his hand in our lives, too.
Definitely. So the nephew spills the beans to the commander privately, tells him everything.
The whole plot. The 40-man, the oath, the ambush plan.
And the commander's response is immediate and serious. Verses 22-24.
He tells the nephew to keep quiet about telling him. And then he organizes this huge escort.
Huge is right. 200 soldiers, 70 horsemen, 200 spearmen, all to get Paul safely to Governor Felix in Caesarea that same night.
Quite the security detail. The study points out the commander's just doing his job, protecting a Roman citizen, preventing trouble.
But God's using that decision, isn't he, to move Paul along the path to Rome?
Exactly. Using people who might have no idea they're part of God's bigger purpose.
Which brings us to the commander's letter to Felix. Claudius Lysias writes an official report. Verses 25-35.
And it's, let's say, a slightly edited version of events.
Yeah, the study notes he paints himself in a good light, says he rescued Paul because he found out he was Roman.
Kind of glosses over the part where he almost had him flogged before knowing that. A bit self-serving.
Just a bit. And he tells Felix the issue is just about Jewish law, nothing deserving death or prison.
Yet, Paul's still a prisoner.
Yeah.
Right. The study draws that parallel to Jesus again. Declared innocent, basically, but still held.
It really highlights God's sovereignty over it all and the obedience of both Jesus and Paul within that plan.
It does. So Felix asks what province Paul is from Cilicia. That falls under his jurisdiction.
So he decides to hold Paul until the accusers arrive from Jerusalem for a proper hearing.
And Paul is kept under guard in Herod's Praetorium, his headquarters in Caesarea.
Marking the next stage of his journey. Still moving towards Rome, still fulfilling that mission to testify before rulers.
Through all the chaos, the plots, the legal maneuvering, God's purpose is unfolding step by step.
Using everyone involved, whether they realized it or not.
That's a powerful demonstration of that.
So wrapping up our deep dive into Acts 23, we've really seen this incredible mix of faith under pressure, legal battles, God's protection, and his bigger plan slowly revealing itself.
Paul's unwavering focus, even facing death threats, it's, well, quite something to reflect on.
It really is. And that leaves us with a final thought for you, listening.
Yeah, think about your own life. Those unexpected challenges, the things that seem like setbacks.
Could they be part of a larger narrative you can't quite see yet?
Could they perhaps be opening doors? Opportunities to share what you believe in ways you never expected.
Something to definitely mull over.
Absolutely. Keep exploring these ideas. Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
And you can always find more explorations like this wherever you get your podcast. We'll catch you next time.